back to Meet the Ministers. Jeff, what was it? Well, we spoke to you earlier, you're getting involved in the local council. You remember there a point where you're actually thinking to yourself that you've actually got a handle on this and this might be a career option for you?
I think my experience on the local council gave me an insight into how decisions were made, into how things happened. And I started to realise that so much of what we dealt with at the local council level was influenced by the decisions that were made at the state government level. So I wanted to be part of that decision-making process. I wanted to influence how decisions were made and why things happened.
Yeah, so you can see that you can actually make it work at the local level and actually find a way through and think, okay, maybe I can actually translate this experience to the higher level.
Yeah, I used to wonder why things happened the way they did, and realised that somebody was influencing that, and I thought, well, I should try and make things happen the way that, to some extent, that I thought they should.
Was that born out of frustration?
It was not so much frustration, but a real interest in why things happened the way they did, why decisions were made the way they were, why government departments operated the way they did, why the effects that people had to deal with in their everyday life were actually or what caused them.
Yeah.
And so I've always been fascinated about why it is that way. Well, people talk about the government, but in reality, it's somebody. Somebody is making those decisions, and somebody is causing the government to bring about that outcome.
Us civilians on the outside, it often seems very strange, a very convoluted process. Why is it that way? I mean, I know that's a very generalised question, but government's like nothing else. The public service is like nothing else. Why does it work the way it does?
It is very convoluted and very complex, and even in my current role, one of the frustrations I have is to actually find the person who makes the decision. In a lot of instances,
those grey people in suits that you can never find.
That's right. And to find the person who makes the decision and have a chance to put the case to him or her that the decision needs to be otherwise. So it is a complex system that's developed over time. It requires patience. It requires almost an analytical ability to analyse just what's going on here. Who's making this decision?
What's the key to being able to embrace that process, that analytical bent that you need to get things through?
Yep. I think the key is understanding that in the end, it's all about an individual person. They're all individual people. Yep. While it is a big complex system, it is made up of individuals, and each one of those individuals is a person like you and I, and they have the same degree of logic and the same reasoning ability, and are motivated by all the same things.
Yeah.
So it's about the key to working in government, working with bureaucracies, is understanding that they are made up of individuals
and dealing with everybody as an individual.
And dealing with every one of them as an individual. Yeah.
You're getting better at that?
Oh yes, I absolutely. It's over nearly 13 years now in opposition. Trying to achieve things from opposition is difficult, but it is a skill that you develop. Yeah. I look back on my early days in the business and realise just how little I knew about the business of representing people, the business of getting an outcome for people, for constituents, for communities, and I think all of us over time develop a skill, and I'm very, very aware that I've developed a skill in achieving those outcomes for the people I represent.
I meet lots of politicians presenting this program, and some of them come in here a little taken aback, a little uncertain, a little nervous, a little confrontational. You seem pretty happy and pretty relaxed and kind of at peace where you are in the world at the moment.
I get an enormous amount of satisfaction out of this job.
Yeah.
Not so much from seeing myself on television. I could do without that. That doesn't turn me on. But what I get a satisfaction out of is changing an outcome that's less than optimum. But getting a result for people, whether it's the little old lady that can't get her teeth fixed, or somebody who's had a problem or been treated badly by a department. Those things are satisfying. It's also satisfying to get something for a community, something physical that's there, and after 12 years now, I can drive through most of my communities and see something that we were involved in ensuring that happened, and that's a real self-satisfaction thing for me.
An enormous pride in the fact that you've been able to achieve that for your electorate.
Yeah. Oh, it's pride may not be the right word. It's just quietly satisfying. It's not something that I did that, but it just gives me. It makes what I do worthwhile, because there's some bad days. There's some tough days in this business.
Yeah.
Politicians are always subject to cheap shots, and a lot of people don't understand that those cheap shots hurt politicians' friends and families more than they hurt the politicians. We develop a thick skin. It doesn't hurt us, but it hurts those that are associated with us, and that's hard to take.
Having said that, with the benefit of hindsight, would you go back 30 years and choose a career in politics?
I think so. I never took a deliberate decision to go into politics. It was a progression. It just happened, and I think that I'm more than satisfied with what I've achieved over the last 13 years, and hopefully I've got a few years left yet.
Do you have a timeline? Do you have an end point?
I think somewhere between 60 and 65 is retirement age for most people, and so it should be for politicians. I think that's not too many years ahead for me, but I think by 60 to 65, I think it's time to retire.
An extraordinary time, the last 15 years in Conservative politics in Queensland, the merging of the two parties. How do you look back on that time?
It was a very frustrating time for us in those years when we couldn't develop a model that would allow us to go to the people as an alternative government. So it's been very satisfying to be part of that, because it frustrated Conservative politics.
Because there was no blueprint existed. It couldn't have been at a lower point, and all you could do was rebuild.
Exactly, and there were all sorts of ideas about how we should do that. What we've achieved over the last 6 months, especially, but certainly over the last 2 years, or the last few years, it's a bit longer than that now, has been quite spectacularly successful, and I think it's fulfilled a dream that many of us had through those hard years when we had coalitions that fell apart and we had all sorts of internal conflicts that didn't seem to have any solution. But now we've found a solution, and that's very satisfying.
There's no election date at this stage?
No, but it's coming it's coming closer inevitably.
Bruce Flegg told me he thought it would probably be February.
And I think he's right.
Quietly confident?
I'm confident that we are in a position to offer a viable alternative government to the people of Queensland. It is then up to the people of Queensland to make that choice. I am quietly confident that we have done all that we possibly could to ensure that there was a clear choice at the next election for the people of Queensland. That's the first time I've been able to say that in all of the 5 elections I've been involved in. But I'm quietly confident that we, on the Conservative side of politics, have done all that we can to ensure that we have a viable alternative. It's now up to the people of Queensland.
Pretty good place to be in at the moment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it certainly is satisfying to see the Conservative side of politics come together to a point where we can offer the people of Queensland a viable alternative under a proven leader like Campbell Newman, and say to the people of Queensland, here's your choice.
Yeah, very much so. You're watching Meet the Ministers. We'll be back after the break.